G'day everyone. Thought I'd talk to you today really about solar. Solar's a pretty important thing when it comes to, being off-grid. So we're on day 2 of our 11-day off-grid setup out here in the bush. But you'll notice I've got some portable panels. So I've got a couple of 250 watt panels. We've also got on the roof of our hybrid over there, we've got 4 90 watt Reynolds panels. We changed over to lithium, which is a much better setup for us. So we've got 3 140 amp lithium batteries in there that's giving us over 400 amps. And we've also got, like I said, a 95 litre fridge and a 50 litre fridge. We've actually got a portable ice machine as well, which we run through the inverter, but we normally run that in the afternoons to give us ice for a few drinks at night. But anyway, like I said, just want to talk about the importance of solar, batteries, and the capacity or the things that you're running off it. So don't just rely on rooftop solar, because you won't last long. You'll only last a couple of days before you're out of battery. You really need to subsidise it with other panels. I guess the important thing to think about is when you have rooftop solar, they're really only putting that input in between sort of 10 AM and 2 PM. So don't ever rely on just rooftop solar to fully charge up your batteries. So usually first thing in the morning, I'm trying to chase that sun straight up, trying to get some good current straight in on that battery. Just show you the basic setup we've got here. So I don't use the regulators on the panels. I feed that straight into our Red Oak BMS30 system as a solar input, and just using it unregulated. I do that via the Anderson plug that we've got on the front. So I've actually modified our Anderson plug, which is the 12 volt feed from your car coming in. I've actually got a changeover switch up there near the batteries, and I just flick that over to either a 12 volt input from the car when we're travelling, and I can just flick it over, just a switch that I've put in there, which changes it to a solar feed. Important thing when using cables, make sure you use decent quality cables. So I either use usually 10 metre rolls, but at a minimum 8 BNS cable, twin copper, but 6 BNS is even better. So that's 8 gauge or 6 gauge cable, and no more than probably about 10 metres. And I think 10 metres is a good size. You can get shorter cables, but it can be quite restrictive. So I've actually been moving the panels around quite a bit over the last couple of days, trying to capture some good solar input. The other thing I use too on the back here, I used to make these up years ago, but you can actually buy them pretty cheap. So if you just go on eBay, you just call a watt amp volt meter. They usually come with already set up these days with a Anderson plug on either side. Now these are actually priceless when it comes to trying to capture the most amps out of your system. You can't just always rely on looking at the sun and poking a panel at it and starting to think, yep, that's pretty good, I've got good sun on that. Even this morning I had 2.7 amps on this panel, and just by having a look at that meter and just focusing the panel up and fraction this way, just looking at that meter, I went from 2.7 amps to 8.9 amps in just by a few minor adjustments. When you times that by 2, it makes a big difference. Like I said before, your rooftop solar. So for example today, I've got 30 amps going in. I think it's around about 11 o'clock. We've got 30 amps of current going straight into that feed, because it's a 30 amp charger, and that's taking the feed off these 2 lots of 250 watt panels and the 490 watt panels up there on the roof. But to give you an idea, at 10 o'clock I did a measurement, and I had 30 amps going in at that time, but I disconnected these 2 panels, and at 10 o'clock this morning, and as you can see we're getting a fair bit of sun straight on that van, we got 8 amps. 8 amps were coming in on the rooftop solar when I had these 2 disconnected at 10 o'clock. And then by me just plugging those 2 back in, bang, straight back up to 30. So it's really important to know that, you know, you can't rely on just rooftop solar, because rooftop solar being, you know, that it's just sitting horizontal on your roof there, is really only going to get a decent feed between 10 o'clock and 10 in the morning and 2 p.m. If you're taking power out of your battery system for 24 hours, you're never going to get it all back in full. You know, you just can't do it. So the idea is having, you know, you've got to subsidise. I actually look at that as just an extra, as a bonus, and having these portable panels as my main focus is getting current into the system, because I can start doing that from 7:30 in the morning, and pretty much in the afternoon, I think it was around about 5:30, 5:45, I was still getting quite a fair bit of current still feeding into the batteries. So look at portable panels as your main feed, and your rooftop solar as just a bonus feed coming in. Anyway, that's it from me. That's just a few solar and battery tips for you. Cheers.